girls in that country educated. So there is an inverse relationship between population growth rate and the education of the girls. The more educated the girls are, there is going to be less growth rate in population. So one of the main important drivers for us to have a successful population control program, besides ensuring that the means for population control, contraceptives are available, but I think most important thing is that we need to prioritize education of the girls and make it #1 national priority, because the education of the girls will really help us bring some slowdown in this growth rate. But looking at all these socio-economic reasons, there is also a major governance issue. And that governance issue is that the formula that we have for distribution of financial resources, that places 80% weightage among provinces on the number of on their size of population. Now, how can you expect, when population control is a devolved subject, and if for any province, if they carry out a successful population control program, and if the size of their population also reduces, that actually means that their distribution, their share in the distribution of national pool of resources also reduces. So if a province has to have a larger share in the resource pool or the divisible pool that is shared or distributed amongst provinces, then each and every province has an incentive that it must post a higher population number so that it can justify more bigger claim on the resources. So now if the province is responsible for all population control, but ultimately the resources that the province will get depends on the number of population it can show. So I think this is a big contradiction in itself. There is no incentive for any province to carry out a successful population control program. So I think the time has come that we need to seriously review the National Finance Commission formula for distribution of resources. While there ought to be some weightage for population, but I think there should be equal weightage for demographic efficiency or population control program success that province also shows, because then no province should feel that if I can carry out a successful population control program, I will not be penalized for carrying out a successful population control program. So this is not possible unless we have national consensus on this, and I would urge all the experts to really put forward this case before the policymakers, because we have many political controversies now associated with how census is done. Census has been a very controversial issue in Pakistan for last several decades. Some provinces have been constantly alleging that they are not counted properly. Why? Because in some provinces we have internal dynamics where it is very difficult to balance those competing, conflicting interests. So this has become quite an explosive issue, and you always see that whenever we have census, there are political controversies associated with census. So the only way, I think, to come out of it is that either we de-link census with the distribution of national resources, so that census only becomes a development and an academic data, and it does not influence the distribution of resources, or if it has to be linked with distribution of resources, we need to have a more progressive formula for distribution of resources in the provinces, and I think this will be a major, this should be a major priority if we really want to see success in population control programs. The reason I have come here out of a convention which we are holding to honor our martyrs. Prime Minister was also keen to come here, but he is in that convention. But he asked me to come here and on his behalf reassure the audience that our government assigns full priority, and we understand the importance of this important intervention that we need to make in our society if we have to grow faster, because unless we will control population, we will not be able to distribute our resources in a manner where we can educate our children well, we can provide our people good health care, we can provide our people a good future. So our future is linked to how fast we can control the growth of population. Unfortunately, the preliminary results that have so far come out of the census, where we certainly see a trend in some areas which are way higher than our expectations. So we are now in the process of verifying those growth rates, and also we have asked the demographers committee, expert committee, to do or recommend necessary measures where they see that there is no basis for that kind of growth rate. Unfortunately, the census was done through digital tablets, and therefore we can very easily spot where was what activity done in what matter of time, and also we can, with the help of satellite imagery, cross-check the number of households that are there, and where there is reporting of higher households, we have been able to verify them with the imagery that has been given to us by Sparko satellite images. So we are in the process of validating and verifying, and maybe where necessary rectifying the results. But the sad thing is that if we just take the results on face value, that puts Pakistan in the league of Ethiopia and Nigeria. If we really take those numbers on face value, then we go from, there is no country in Asia that has that kind of population growth rate. So we put ourselves in the company of the sub-Saharan African countries. It's Nigeria, it's Ethiopia, it's Chad, which has 2.8 or 2.9 or 3% population growth rates. That's very sad. So therefore, it is a big responsibility for us to really work with the demographers and see that how can we